So guys, just a quick heads up before we start. This is totally fake. I just want to make that clear. It's just left over from a Halloween event. It will not come off. I've been wearing away at it. I'm going to maybe give it a few more days to come off. But yeah, I didn't get a tattoo since our last video. But hey everyone, what's going on? I am back again today to talk about a heavily recommended subject on the channel. And that is the Eminence in Shadow. Or as I like to call it, that time I got reincarnated as an edgelord or edgelord isekai. So when this show first aired, a lot of people were telling me that there's a lot of similarities between this show and Overlord, and that's why I should check it out and maybe do videos on it, is because, you know, it's an isekai anime, of course, and you all know I like isekai anime. I've made that no secret. But also that the plot and story and characters have some similarities to Overlord, and that would be fun to discuss. So I read the plot synopsis before I went into the anime, and I was just like, what is going on? The plot synopsis made no sense to me, so I just decided to screw it and go ahead with the show. And the first episode really came out with a bang, because one thing that I was not expecting in this show was the amount of violence. This kind of seemed like a gag anime when I was reading the plot synopsis, but the first episode seemed like super serious, and so I was just like, okay, what is going on? Is this the type of show I think it is? And then we move on, and I'm just getting different vibes like the whole time I'm watching the show, and I can see why people did make comparisons of this to Overlord. So if you guys don't know about the Eminence in Shadow, it basically revolves around this kid whose name I can't remember before he's reincarnated, but once he's reincarnated, his name is Sid. And basically in his previous life, his whole thing was he wanted to be like an edgelord. I actually don't know. He wants to be a guy that manipulates things in the background. He wants to be kind of like this evil mastermind type of character. Basically, he bases his whole life on wanting to be this edgy background manipulator master guy. So this dude is out of his mind. However, from what I've seen, his entire crew is made up of elves and animal girls, so clearly he does have some intelligence. But basically, that's what this dude was doing in his life. Like, he was training all the time. He said he wanted to be stronger than a nuclear bomb. So this dude is batshit insane. And that's our main character that we're working with here, and he gets a visit from Truck-kun and gets reincarnated into a fantasy world. And now, in this fantasy world, he finally has the resources and the abilities, you know, fictional abilities, to achieve this ludicrous goal, and things start to spiral from there. And one of the things I can see why people compared this to Overlord is because of the situation our main character finds himself in by pure coincidence. So episode 1 I'm actually kind of confused on, because I read the bit of the manga after I started watching this, and I don't remember that. So is that from somewhere in the future of the manga? I only read like a few chapters, so is it sometime in the future of the manga, or is this just something anime only they threw in as like a prologue? Because I was just like, is this an isekai anime? Because the entire episode took place in, you know, modern day. But after that episode, you know, he starts like picking up people for his crew, and a lot of it's shown off screen because we time jump a lot in the beginning episodes. Basically, how this happens is this dude basically just comes upon these extremely hot elf girls and animal girls and whatever, and he convinces him by making up this story that there's this cult that you know, is hunting them and is like targeting certain people, and the reason why they're in these situations is because of the cult, and that's why they have to join him and his organization to take down the cult that he's making up. But it turns out that the cult that he made up is totally real, and everything he made up for his freaking backstory is completely real, and everyone in his group knows it. The enemies he fights knows it. He does not know it. So it's funny because he keeps getting into these like very intense situations, right? But to him, it's just him being the character. At least that's how I think it is. And that's something I'm confused on, actually, is like, because he doesn't know what's going on. He thinks it's all made up. He thinks this is a game or whatever. But like, he keeps getting in these situations and he keeps being serious in the situations. And I know he's playing a character and everything. How has he not put 2 and 2 together at this point that this is real? I don't understand, but like, he keeps referencing how that like his people are just like playing along with his game, and they think it's he thinks that they think it's a game too, when it's not. So like, another thing that makes it like Overlord is kind of the fake it till you make it kind of like attitude of the main characters, because, you know, Ainz always pretends to be this all-knowing smart guy and just kind of goes along with what his subordinates think about him, and that's reflected very heavily in this show. All the subordinates think that he goes by the name Shadow when he's working with with his subordinate, they all think he's just a genius, planning 10 steps ahead, doing whatever. And part of it is because of how he presents himself, because there's one scene in the anime where he literally spends like so much money and time prepping just for this like one cool looking edgy shot when his subordinate walks in. He's like drinking a glass of wine, he has like an open letter, and like I was just like, oh my god, so this dude is really leaning into this. And I think it's almost kind of satirical in a way, because it's like that scene would happen in anime without it being like, oh, I'm prepping for this. It's just like that's how a scene would be in anime, but they're making a joke out of, I want to look cool, so I'm gonna set it up like this, you know? And it also kind of feels like Overlord in the sense of kind of the antagonists and also the side character, because like the main character, you know, he's kind of just living in his own world. He's completely delusional, this guy. You know, all the other characters in the show know it's real, and they're realizing it, and like they're living real lives, and the stakes are high for them, and like they're very serious situations. Like one of the first antagonists he meets, and we get like this little scene about him. The reason he's a part of the cult is because of his daughter and things like that, and like we get kind of like backstory on this guy, and then, you know, Sid just kills him, and we get like all this stuff. Like we kind of feel like a little bit of emotion for the antagonist, but it doesn't stop Sid from killing him. It feels like Overlord in the sense that, you know, everyone else is just populating this world that our main character is kind of just going about doing his own thing with. Now, the one big difference is that Ainz takes the situations seriously. He knows like that this is real and everything like that, and that he takes it very seriously, and he has good goals in mind for his own people. Obviously not for anyone else. He only cares about his own people. But, you know, this guy's Sid, he's literally just created this whole situation just to, you know, live out his delusions and fantasies. So, and that's something I feel like we need to make sure we keep in mind, is that this guy is nuts. At the very least, he's the delusional kid. And, you know, he doesn't really grasp what's going on around him for the most part. It goes from very serious and kind of dark to very funny, lighthearted. Like the first episode seemed very serious with, you know, the situation with the girl being kidnapped. And then we move on to the second episode where it's just like him growing up and, you know, messing around with his sister who has a brother complex and all that stuff. And then, you know, his sister gets kidnapped and she's like doing all this, you know, crazy crap, and he's just murdering these guys out of nowhere. And then we go to the school arc, and we learn about the school, and we see all these like kind of like different characters, and we have this fake relationship situation that's kind of funny. And then she gets kidnapped, and she gets like has to get her blood sucked out of her, and is doing all this like experimentation, and it keeps going like up and down in terms of seriousness in this show, kind of like Overlord does, because Overlord does have like these intermissions where it gets like lighthearted, and we have these comic relief episodes that feel disconnected from the dark overall plot of Overlord. But the main thing that I think makes this inferior to Overlord is number one, the less focus on the side cast. I mean, we literally skip over the recruitment of everyone besides Alpha, and we're just kind of like learning about them as they come along. So we don't know anything about them, which, you know, granted, we're still early on, so we might get into that a little bit, because we didn't know too much about the Floor Guardians and everyone else, but we spent like 2 whole episodes just like meeting everyone in Nazarick, whereas in this show, we don't spend very much time at all meeting the, you know, main side cast. And then I would have to say number 2 is the, you know, lack of world building when in comparison to Overlord. You know, we do spend some time, you know, discovering this world a bit and like what is possible in this world. Not nearly the same amount as Overlord. You know, like I said before, we have episodes in Overlord that don't have Ainz in them at all. That's not the case in this show. You know, it seems very focused on our MC doing MC things. So while there is a lot of parallels to Overlord in the sense of the plot and fake it till you make it and the vibes and stuff like that, I do want to keep a separation between these two, because this is an entirely different thing. It seems a whole lot less heavy. I mean, that is funny about it, like how he keeps getting into these situations that like make him an MC even though he doesn't want to do these MC situations. There's also some epic moments, like in the most recent episode, the I Am Atomic thing. I thought that was really cool. And another thing, like the quality of the show in terms of like animation and style, I think it's very, very well done. I do like the fact that they do not pull punches with the violence. You know, it kind of shows this huge juxtaposition. It's almost shocking sometimes, like how quickly we just dart into these super serious situations compared to what we were before. Like in episode 3, we're doing school life stuff. He's in a fake relationship with this girl, and she's like paying him, and he's like being a dog and whatever. And then in episode 4, he's getting tortured, and it's just like, okay, what? So while this show is serious, like around the MC, when we're getting the perspective from the MC, it's hard to take it seriously, because he only takes it seriously in the sense of, is this gonna help me be an edgelord? It's hard for me to take this show as seriously as I would Overlord, you know? I'm not saying it's a bad show. I'm thoroughly entertained. I've watched every episode, and I plan to keep watching them. I mean, it's definitely more serious than like a lot of isekais out there. So it's darker. It's more on the dark fantasy side. I do like the show, and I plan to keep watching it and maybe read the manga too, just to like see if there's any differences further on than I've already read. But yeah, I can see why people wanted me to take a look at this and give you my thoughts on the show in comparison to Overlord, because there are parallels. And I do find that interesting, and one of the fun things I do in every episode is just like, oh, that's just like Ainz and Nazarick and everything, and also like filling in the roles of who is who. Like, you know, Alpha is obviously like the albedo, and that's kind of fun to do, you know, watching this show, you know, going from Overlord, because this show is basically Overlord put in a blender and reskinned, you know, with a different air about it, but has similar qualities to it. So, and while it may sound like I don't like the show, I do like the show. It's just I have some problems with it that make me take it not as seriously as Overlord, but I still intend to watch the show, and I thank you guys for recommending it to me. What did you guys think of the first few episodes of The Eminence in Shadow? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. I want to hear from you guys and what you think. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, please don't forget to hit that like button on your way out, and if you aren't already, please subscribe to the channel. It helps me out more than you know, and it'll let you know when I post in the future. With that being said, I want to thank you all for watching to the very end of the video, and I will see you all next time. Bye!